Have you ever been trapped in a moment where someone's presence alone was enough to disturb your peace, and you secretly wished they would just disappear from your life? Maybe it was a disrespectful coworker who drained your energy, a hostile neighbor who thrived on conflict, a domineering boss who ruled through fear, or a toxic ex who still lived rent-free in your mind. In that moment, what did you do? Did you react? Did you argue? Did anger rise before reason could speak? Or did you walk away feeling unsettled and powerless? Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. Your enemy doesn't win because they are strong. They win because they control your emotions. And the moment they do, the battle is already lost. In this video, we're going to uncover 15 powerful Stoic ways to destroy your enemy without fighting. Not through aggression, revenge, or bitterness, but through something far more unsettling to them: unshakable inner control. Rooted in the ancient wisdom of Stoicism, these principles reveal how the greatest victory is not defeating others, but mastering yourself. Stoicism teaches us how to remain calm under pressure, clear in chaos, and dignified in the face of hostility. You'll discover how tools like strategic indifference, emotional detachment, forgiveness, disciplined silence, gratitude, and even quiet humor can completely disarm those who seek to provoke you. This is not about becoming weak or passive, it's about becoming untouchable. When practiced correctly, these methods don't just neutralize your enemy, they expose them. Welcome to Stoic Sage Academy, where wisdom replaces reaction and inner strength becomes your greatest weapon. Watch closely, because by the end of this video, you'll never see conflict or your enemies the same way again. 1. The dominance of silence. Why ignoring your enemy strips them of power. The first way to destroy your enemy is through silence. Silence is one of the simplest yet most devastating responses you can offer an enemy who seeks your attention. When you remain silent, you deny them the reaction they desperately crave. You starve their ego. You refuse to feed their need for conflict, validation, or emotional control. In your silence, you communicate something far louder than words ever could. They do not matter. By choosing silence, you show your enemy that their presence, their insults, and their actions do not disturb your inner world. You reveal that your focus is fixed on higher priorities, your purpose, your discipline, your peace. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not fear. Silence is authority under control. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminded us, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. When you stay silent, you demonstrate that you value your peace of mind above your enemy's behavior or opinions. Silence is resistance because it refuses to validate provocation. Silence is wisdom because it avoids useless arguments that drain energy and clarity. Silence is dignity because it prevents you from sinking to their level. Silence is unpredictability because it confuses those who expect reaction. Silence is challenge because it shows you are not intimidated. And ultimately, silence is victory because when you have nothing to prove, nothing to defend, and nothing to explain, you have already won. So the next time you encounter your enemy, don't argue, don't explain, don't react. Simply walk away. 2. The discipline of indifference. Why not caring is the ultimate weapon. The second way to destroy your enemy is indifference. Indifference is one of the most powerful psychological weapons a Stoic can wield. When you are indifferent, you make it clear that their words, actions, and opinions hold no weight in your mind. You show them that their attempts to provoke, insult, or harm you fall flat because there is nothing for them to land on. Indifference is not apathy. It is not emotional numbness. It is mastery. It is the quiet confidence of someone who knows what truly matters. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Through indifference, you demonstrate absolute control over your inner world. No insult penetrates, no attack sticks. Indifference creates detachment, allowing you to stop taking things personally. It creates objectivity, keeping your judgment clear and steady. It creates liberation, freeing you from dependence on external validation. It becomes defiance because your enemy gains no satisfaction from your response. It becomes resistance because you do not fall into their traps. And ultimately, it becomes victory because when you have nothing to prove, nothing to defend, and nothing to explain, you have victory. Practice indifference by refusing to react. Nothing frustrates an enemy more than irrelevance. 3. The practice of detachment. Why stepping back creates clarity. The third way to destroy your enemy is detachment. Detachment allows you to separate your identity from their behavior. When you detach, you make it clear that they do not define you, control you, or shape your emotions. Their actions are theirs alone, and you refuse to carry them. Detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. Seneca wisely observed, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." By detaching, you stop exaggerating your enemy's power or importance. You see them as they truly are, flawed, human, and limited. Detachment protects your mental and emotional space. It prevents unnecessary suffering. It invites understanding instead of judgment. It preserves peace by avoiding pointless drama. It maintains respect by refusing insults or degradation. It transforms reaction into response, measured, rational, and intentional. And ultimately, detachment is self-mastery. When nothing disturbs your inner calm, your enemy loses their influence entirely. Detach yourself by refusing to take them seriously. 4. The strength of forgiveness. Why letting go is true power. The fourth way to destroy your enemy is forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood Stoic virtues. It is not approval, it is not surrender, it is release. When you forgive, you choose not to carry resentment, bitterness, or revenge in your mind. You refuse to let the past poison the present. Forgiveness requires courage. As Epictetus said, the best way to avenge yourself is to not be that. Forgiveness elevates you above your enemy's behavior. It proves that you are not governed by hatred. Forgiveness heals you. It reflects compassion and understanding without excusing wrongdoing. It restores freedom by breaking emotional chains. It is generous because it offers peace without demanding apology. It challenges your enemy by refusing to mirror their flaws. And ultimately, it is victory, because the moment resentment ends, their power ends with it. Forgive your enemy by refusing to relive the past. 5. The mindset of gratitude. Why abundance makes you untouchable. The fifth way to destroy your enemy is gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is missing to what is already present. When you are grateful, you make it clear that your happiness does not depend on comparison, status, or external approval. Gratitude is strength. Gratitude is fulfillment. Seneca reminded us, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. When you practice gratitude, you show your enemy that your joy is self-sustaining. Gratitude creates abundance. It fosters humility without weakness. It brings peace instead of stress. It encourages generosity rather than envy. It challenges resentment by replacing it with appreciation. And ultimately, it becomes victory, because a grateful person cannot be emotionally conquered. Practice gratitude by refusing to compare your life to your enemies. 6. The weapon of wit. Why laughter disarms even your strongest enemy. The sixth way to destroy your enemy is through humor. Humor is a subtle yet devastating Stoic technique because it dissolves tension without confrontation. When you respond with humor, you show your enemy that you refuse to be emotionally hijacked. You reveal that you don't take their provocations, or even yourself, too seriously. You can laugh at the situation, at yourself, and yes, even at them. By being humorous, you communicate that you are not offended, threatened, or enraged. You are relaxed, amused, and in control. Humor is not immaturity, it is flexibility. It is the ability to bend without breaking. As Epictetus observed, men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them. Through humor, you demonstrate a superior perspective, one that shrinks their hostility into something manageable and even absurd.
Humor becomes creativity because you improvise rather than repeat predictable reactions.
It becomes intelligence because you think independently instead of conforming emotionally. It becomes charm because people are drawn to calm confidence and wit. It becomes surprise because enemies expect anger, not laughter. It becomes challenge because mockery, when restrained and dignified, exposes the emptiness of provocation. And finally, humor becomes victory because anyone who can still laugh cannot be defeated. Protect your sense of humor, and you protect your freedom. 7. The strength of respect. Why humility is the true mark of wisdom. The 7th way to destroy your enemy is respect. Respect is one of the most disarming responses you can offer to hostility. When you treat your enemy with dignity, you deny them the chaos they expect. You refuse contempt, cruelty, and insult. Instead, you acknowledge their humanity, even when they fail to acknowledge yours. Respect is not submission, it is self-command. Marcus Aurelius warned us, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself, what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? Through respect, you show self-awareness rather than judgment, humility rather than arrogance. Respect becomes understanding when you attempt to see their perspective. It becomes communication when you listen instead of dismiss. It becomes cooperation when conflict is replaced with reason. It becomes honor when your conduct remains consistent and principled. It becomes challenge because you elevate the interaction rather than degrade it. And it becomes victory because a person who maintains respect cannot be dragged down. Never lower yourself to your enemy's level. Rise above it. 8. The power of kind action. Why generosity confuses hostility. The 8th way to destroy your enemy is helpfulness. Helpfulness is generosity in action. In few things unsettle hostility more than kindness. When you help your enemy, you show that bitterness has no hold on you. You offer assistance not because they deserve it, but because it reflects who you are. Helpfulness demonstrates patience instead of anger. Seneca wisely said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." In choosing to help rather than retaliate, you replace impulse with intention. Helpfulness becomes healing when harm is met with care. It becomes compassion when judgment gives way to understanding. It becomes inclusion when isolation is expected. It becomes generosity when sharing replaces withholding. It becomes challenge because service exposes selfishness. And it becomes victory because kindness transforms situations that force never could. Helpfulness proves that your character cannot be corrupted. 9. The pillar of truth. Why honesty makes you unbreakable. The 9th way to destroy your enemy is honesty. Honesty is a rare form of courage. When you are honest, you remove all leverage from manipulation and deceit. You show your enemy that you have nothing to hide and nothing to fear. Epictetus taught, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Honesty accepts misunderstanding rather than living a lie. Honesty becomes transparency when masks are removed. It becomes authenticity when you act as yourself, not as expected. It becomes integrity when values remain intact under pressure. It becomes respect because truth honors reality. It becomes challenge because truth disrupts illusions. And it becomes victory because honesty exposes falsehood without aggression. Remain truthful, and no one can control you. 10. The crown of virtue. Why wisdom places you beyond defeat. The 10th way to destroy your enemy is wisdom. Wisdom governs impulse and replaces reaction with reason. When you act wisely, you demonstrate that emotions do not rule you, principles do. As Seneca wrote, the wise man does nothing unwillingly. Wisdom ensures that every action is chosen, not forced. Wisdom becomes knowledge when you understand rather than assume. It becomes virtue when you choose what is right over what is easy. It becomes leadership when others react and you remain steady. It becomes evaluation when you think instead of conform. It becomes challenge when you question rather than submit. And it becomes victory because wisdom elevates you beyond rivalry. Act wisely, and no enemy can reach you. 11. The supreme achievement. Why true happiness is the highest Stoic victory. The 11th way to destroy your enemy is to be genuinely happy. Happiness in Stoic philosophy is not a fleeting emotion or a lucky circumstance. It is a disciplined state of being. When you are happy, you show your enemy that your well-being does not depend on external events, other people, or outcomes beyond your control. You demonstrate that no insult, provocation, or hostility has the power to steal your inner contentment. Happiness reveals self-mastery. It shows that you are at peace with who you are and satisfied with what you have. As Epictetus taught, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. By choosing happiness, you prove that you understand this law of life, and that your enemy exists firmly outside your emotional jurisdiction. Happiness becomes joy because you celebrate rather than complain. It becomes meaning because you move with purpose instead of drifting aimlessly. It becomes self-sufficiency because you need nothing external to feel whole. It becomes generosity because a happy mind naturally shares. It becomes challenge because it denies envy and resentment. And it becomes victory because the highest good has already been achieved within you. Guard your happiness fiercely, and no enemy can touch you. 12. The discipline of stillness. Why calmness shatters provocation. Calmness is emotional armor. When you remain calm, you show your enemy that chaos cannot enter your mind. You do not panic, overreact, or lose composure. You stay grounded, steady, and unshaken. Calmness signals control. It reflects inner stability, not passivity. Seneca warned us, "He who does not prevent a crime when he can, encourages it." In Stoic terms, losing your calm is allowing a crime against your own soul. By staying calm, you protect your inner harmony and deny your enemy access to it. Calmness becomes resistance when pressure fails to move you. It becomes wisdom when reason replaces impulse. It becomes dignity when self-respect remains intact. It becomes confidence when fear dissolves into trust. It becomes challenge because conflict without surrender. And it becomes victory because self-mastery is the greatest conquest. Stay cool, stay composed, and your enemy loses their grip. 13. The force of positivity. Why positivity weakens every enemy. Positivity is not denial, it is deliberate focus. When you are positive, you choose to see opportunity where others see obstruction. You refuse to let negativity define your mindset or your future. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Positivity is mental discipline. It proves that your thoughts are cultivated, intentional, and resilient. Positivity creates abundance because lack disappears from your thinking. It sparks creativity by encouraging invention over repetition. It builds resilience because setbacks become lessons. It deepens gratitude by replacing complaint with appreciation. It challenges despair by sustaining hope. And it becomes victory because optimism cannot be extinguished by hostility. Stay positive, and your enemy loses their power. 14. The strength of self-respect. Why assertiveness defines freedom. Assertiveness is the calm declaration of boundaries. It is the refusal to be dominated, manipulated, or silenced. When you are assertive, you show your enemy that your rights and values are non-negotiable. Epictetus stated clearly, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Assertiveness is self-mastery in action. It is confidence without aggression and courage without hostility. Assertiveness becomes protection when you refuse exploitation. It becomes communication when needs are clearly expressed. It becomes cooperation through fair negotiation. It becomes leadership because you act with authority rather than submission. And it becomes challenge because you stand firm instead of conforming. And it becomes victory because empowerment cannot be taken away. Stand up for yourself, and no one can rule you.
15. The final ascent. Why kindness is the most unstoppable force. The 15th and final way to destroy your enemy is kindness. Kindness is not softness, it is moral strength. When you choose kindness, you reject hatred, cruelty, and bitterness. You refuse to let hostility corrupt your character. Seneca observed, "The man who has injured you is either stronger than you or weaker than you. If he is weaker, spare him. If he is stronger, spare yourself." Kindness
spares both. Kindness heals instead of wounds. It understands instead of condemns. It includes rather than isolates. It gives instead of hoards. It challenges hatred with compassion, and it becomes victory because it transforms conflict at its root. When you remain kind, even in adversity, you prove that your enemy never truly had power over you. If there is one truth that Stoicism reveals with absolute clarity, it is this: your enemy was never the person standing in front of you. The real enemy was always the loss of self-command, the surrender of your peace, the moment you allowed someone else to rule your emotions. Every principle you've explored in this video leads back to that single realization. Through silence, you learned how power is preserved. Through indifference and detachment, you learned how influence is broken. Through forgiveness, gratitude, humor, and kindness, you discovered that strength does not roar, it endures. Through honesty, assertiveness, calmness, positivity, wisdom, and happiness, you saw what true freedom looks like: a mind that cannot be shaken, manipulated, or conquered. Stoicism does not teach you to crush your enemies. It teaches you something far more radical: to outgrow them. When you master yourself, your enemies lose their relevance. Their words become noise. Their actions become insignificant. Their presence becomes powerless. This is the Stoic path. Not the path of revenge, but the path of sovereignty. Not the pursuit of domination, but the cultivation of inner rule. When you live this way, conflict dissolves, fear fades, and dignity becomes your default state. Remember this: the greatest revenge is not anger. The greatest revenge is peace. And the greatest victory is a life lived with reason, virtue, and unshakable composure. This is the wisdom we stand for here at Stoic Sage Academy. Carry these principles with you, practice them daily, and walk forward knowing that when you govern your own mind, no enemy, past, present, or future, can ever defeat you.